Good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Bile. I'm with Jackson County, serving as the director of the Emergency Operations Center for the wildland fires that we suffered back in September. So I have several points that I'd like to make today, then we can take questions at the end. Also, I have with me Toby Rice from FEMA, who can answer detailed questions regarding FEMA that I can't. So we have several items of deadlines that are coming up on several different programs that we've talked about before that I just want to remind everybody about again. And the first one is the overall program for FEMA assistance. The official last day to register with FEMA is November 16th, so that's 2 weeks away from today. There's 60 days from September 15th, the day that the emergency was declared, when that ends. So we have November 16th is the last day to register. While registrations are improving, currently we have 4,372 registrations, we still remain confident and concerned that there are people that are not registered that need to register. Each day we talk to somebody or hear of somebody that says, well, I didn't think I would be eligible, or that's still open, or something like that. And so we continue to recommend that people take advantages of these services and register with FEMA. They can do so by going to www.disasterassistance.gov or call 1-800-621-FEMA, 1-800-621-3362, or you can go to Central High School at our MARC, the Multi-Agency Resource Center, and register there. It is worth your effort if you have been damaged. Thus far, to date, FEMA has provided grants through the Individual and Households Program totaling $17,229,000, of which $13,882 is for housing assistance and $3.4 million is for other assistance to assist folks with damages they have suffered as a result of these fires. So again, sign up and register with FEMA if you have suffered from this event. In addition, United Way now has an application open. The United Way of Jackson County set up a fire fund on the day of the fires with a goal of, and thus far they have raised $2 million. They have a goal of raising $3 million. And last Thursday, United Way announced that they were going to release the first $500,000 of this fund and are accepting applications to assist those who have suffered damage and loss from these fires. These awards carry a maximum benefit of $2,500, and the applications are due November 15th. So a little less than 2 weeks from now, if you want assistance from United Way, go to unitedwayofjacksoncounty.org or call 541-773-5339 to get more information on that process. And lastly, on dates that are approaching, when we had our last press conference, we noted that the disaster unemployment assistance was ending at the end of October. The application deadline was approaching. That date has been extended, and people can apply for disaster unemployment assistance all the way to November 27th now. This is an important program for someone who has unemployed as a result of these fires. And things like if you're self-employed or if you were prevented from going to your place of employment as a result of a fire, this assistance can be available to you. Those benefits are available from September 13th of this year all the way through March 20th of 2021. And if you want to file a claim on that, go to Oregon.gov, Employee Disaster, and it's through the Oregon Employment Department. So let's provide some updates on some things that are going on in response to this fire. So the first of all is the household hazardous waste. The debris cleanup program is well underway. This is the step one where the crews from EPA and their strike teams come in, their contractors come in, and they remove the household hazardous wastes that are located on the site. Thus far, they have cleaned up 582 sites, and that's out of 640 properties that were assigned to EPA to clean up. So right now, of the assigned sites, they're 90% through completing up the household hazardous waste work. As a reminder, this program is coming at no cost to property owners. It is free to anyone who signs a right of entry permit, and no local governments are going to come try to collect money afterwards from your insurance for this program. It is a free program. This program only happens if people sign the right of entry permit. And we are still struggling with right of entry permits. When we sent out originally the 970 right of entry forms that we mailed to the property owners, we have received back 1,208, and that sounds great. The problem is many of these are from mobile home park owners that don't actually own the property. So when we actually get down to counting the numbers, it appears that we have 195 properties that are currently don't have right of entry forms for them. We have made phone calls, or we are in the process of making phone calls to those that we can find. Some of these people we cannot find. For those that we can find, we're making phone calls, trying to contact them in a variety of means to see if they want to provide a right of entry. Many of the folks simply say, well, we're not sure yet. We are cautioning people to be careful. If you wait too long, the strike teams and the cleanup forces will leave town and you will lose your opportunity to get your property cleaned up for free. And so we are urging people, sign those right of entry forms and give them to us. We recognize that some people are fully insured and they don't want to participate in this program. That's okay. We accept that. But if you do that, please sign the right of entry form that says you're going to opt out, because otherwise we're going to continue to call you and bother you to try to find out if you want this service or not. So if you don't want the service, just tell us and we will not be trying to contact you anymore. The forms for the right of entries are available at jacksoncounty.org/ROE, and they can also be picked up at Central High School at the location of our multi-agency resource center. So now that we're lastly, on this phase 1 cleanup, the EPA strike teams are starting to demobilize on this Friday. So they're going to start packing up and leaving town on this Friday. They are going to leave some forces here and some members will here. So as we get additional right of entries, will come trickling in. We'll be able to clean those sites. But at some point, they're going to leave town and then this service will be lost. Phase 2, which is the big cleanup, the ash and the trash phase, where we pick up all the debris that's left on the site, the burned debris that's left over, the metal, the chimneys, and then we scrape the ash from the ground. That process has been talked about a lot, but it is now things are starting to happen with that. The decision on the program on how this will be delivered, it's what's called a state contracted, locally coordinated program. So the state of Oregon is going to hire the contractors to do this work, and they're going to work with us locally to help sequence and schedule the work. And so we're going to have a responsibility for scheduling it and sequencing, but the state's going to be the ones to bid the projects and then award the contracts and monitor the contracts. There are 2 contracts associated with this that the state is putting out. One is the monitoring contract, where this is the contractor that's going to oversee the work and ensure that it's being done properly. That contract has been let. Bids have been submitted, and ODOT, who's overseeing this work, is in the process of reviewing those bids, and they will be awarding a contract. The cleanup phase of this, which is the large contract to actually do all the work, that contract has also been let, and it's on the street now. Contractors are currently submitting bids, and ODOT expects to start evaluating those next week. This is a significant milestone that now we have contractors that are starting to come on board, and this work can get started to clean these sites up. It is hoped that work to actually start this cleanup will start later on this month. And so then we can get these sites cleaned up and we can get the restoration of our communities started. Changing away from debris removal, I want to touch on housing for a moment. The housing is in several different phases. Phase 1 is what we call the emergency housing. That's the housing that happens immediately while people do not have shelter. Started at the expo and continues primarily in motel rooms. As of last Friday, Red Cross was housing 512 individuals in 23 different hotels. And additionally, they had 86 people staying at the Southern Oregon RV Park. Red Cross has a contract with the state of Oregon to provide these services through December 31st, 2020. Phase 2, which is the transitional housing piece, this emergency phase ends, and now people get a place that they're going to be in for 6 to 18 months until housing, more permanent housing, can be reconstructed. This is being led primarily by FEMA through their direct housing mission. This was a benefit to our area to get this direct housing mission assigned to the local FEMA staff, and they are providing the lead role in helping to house people during this recovery process. I want to emphasize there are several concurrent processes that go on for this direct housing mission. The first one, or one of the first ones, is a search for vacant housing. So FEMA staff have been down here for several weeks, scouring the area for available housing. They're looking at apartments, rental housing, vacant RV pads, etc. And that work is finishing up now. And what they're finding is there's not a lot available, which doesn't surprise those of us who live there, because we have a very low vacancy rate. But they have done a thorough search of those housing possibilities. In addition, they are looking at retrofitting existing buildings. So they have looked at the SOU dorms. They've looked at other buildings like the Elks Lodge, the Key Bank, and an old hotel here in the valley. And they're looking at, Army Corps of Engineers is looking at those facilities, saying how much would it cost to retrofit those facilities, and how quickly could we get it done, and is that a viable alternative? And also they are looking at expanding RV parks and looking at those potentials. So all these things are being analyzed currently. There's not a final answer for any of these yet, but all that stuff is currently underway, and significant progress is being made to see which one of these options, or all these options, might be the best alternative to follow in providing this transitional housing. At the same time, the FEMA staff are also working with those that registered, and they're making phone calls, and they're calling them to see what their current status is and checking on them to see what their needs are. Currently, they've contacted 802 households, and of that number, 286 households have requested direct housing assistance from FEMA. Many of the people have found alternative means to house themselves, but currently, and I want to emphasize, these numbers are changing, and they will continue to change as more contacts are made and things are done. But right now, 286 households are requesting direct housing assistance. And so those two things are going concurrently, and at some point they will start merging, where the housing will be provided and the people who are eligible and who need the help can be housed. To assist in this effort, FEMA has contracted with Jackson County to utilize the expo grounds, and the expo grounds is going to be used as a staging area for FEMA trailers and RVs that's going to be provided for the entire state. So the staging area is actually going to be the staging area for the whole state of Oregon. Thus far, they've identified 162 RVs from 16 different vendors that are in the process of being transported to the expo grounds to get this process started. In addition, FEMA is also contracted with the county to locate RVs in the Southern Oregon RV Park, at the Immigrant Lake RV Park, and at the Rogue Elk Campground. Thus far, they've ordered 14 trailers, and this is just the very beginning. They've ordered 14 trailers to place in these campgrounds, and many more will be forthcoming to house those people who have been displaced due to these fires. So the housing thing took a while to get started. And several concurrent processes are going on at the same time, but we're starting to see things converge where people are starting to be placed in housing, and progress is being made on this front. The last thing on the registration on the housing that I want to make sure to emphasize is continue to stay in contact with FEMA. If you've registered and your situation changes, for example, you told FEMA that you didn't think you needed housing because you have a housing thing worked out with a friend, and then all of a sudden that stops working out, recontact FEMA, update them, let them know I don't have housing anymore, I am now displaced as a result of these fires and I need some additional help. Stay in contact with FEMA and continue to communicate with them so that they have the current data and can assist folks. The last thing I want to touch on is just an update on the Bear Creek Greenway. Behind me you'll see some photos of some work that's been going done on the Greenway. Weekend before last, we had over 100 volunteers that showed up on numerous locations on the Greenway to spread straw. We have a whole semi-load of straw, and they're spreading that straw on the ground to provide protection to the ground from the rainfalls so it won't wash off the ash and the soil into Bear Creek. And they're also adding supplemental seeding, spreading seed on those areas. This last weekend, we also had an additional 100 volunteers that showed up and continue to do this work. And they're spread out on different areas on the burn scar to hit those areas that are the most needy and have the greatest impact. This upcoming weekend, we have a large contingent of track and cross-country athletes coming over from Klamath Falls area to continue this work, along with several other volunteer groups. It is really satisfying to see all the volunteers that have showed up to help do remediation work and stabilization work on the Bear Creek Greenway. In addition, we have EPA teams that are working and locating the wattles and putting down the jute mat, that material that looks kind of like burlap, to cover the most sensitive areas and the areas that straw won't help do. And the county is also contracted with Lomakoski, a environmental group here that does restoration work in the forest, and they are doing significant work along the Bear Creek Greenway as well. And these photos behind me are showing the restoration work that is taking place. Are we confident that we've done enough to avoid some environmental damage during the winter? The winter will determine that. If we have very severe storms, there's nothing, there's probably not enough we could ever done. But we are very happy of the progress that we've made, and we've made significant progress, and the stabilization work, frankly, is ahead of the schedule and further along than we thought it would be. So we're grateful for everybody's help that's assisting with that. And the very last thing I will just mention is behind me, we were showing the website www.roguevalleyrebuilds.org, and just to, again, direct everybody's attention to that website. It has a wealth of information for survivors that need assistance through this fire. It's serving as the central information location for Jackson County, Talent, and Phoenix, and all the Rogue Valley. And this website is also available at www.roguevalleyrebuilds.org/ES. And with that, I will end and take any questions.
2 questions for you.
Actually, she was first.
Can we please know about the FEMA trailers? Who exactly is it going to house? How is that going to work?
Toby, you want to try that one?
All right. Hi again. My name is Toby Rice. I'm here with FEMA, supporting the state of Oregon in their efforts to assist recovery for all the individuals here. In regard to direct housing, as John said, this is a program that really supplements FEMA's financial assistance. So as he said, everyone should register. We have a couple weeks left, and make sure you follow through providing FEMA any changes to your situation, and make sure you update with any information regarding any insurance you might have, providing any documents they might need to prove your occupancy or ownership of the damaged dwelling. In terms of who will be housed in what are sometimes called FEMA trailers, these are people who have registered with FEMA. Of course, they live here in Jackson County, which is designated for individual assistance, and their primary dwelling was impacted by the fires. Generally, we're looking at people who have had major damage or their home was destroyed, and they're interested in those kind of housing options that FEMA might be able to provide. So, as John mentioned, everything from RVs, travel trailers, if that's appropriate. We're looking at any sites that could be utilized, as well as mobile home units. And the key is that FEMA will look at the size and composition of the household at the time of the disaster to determine the size of that unit and the appropriateness. And certainly they'll look at any accessibility considerations that household might need.
And when will they be usable, and where will they end up housing actual people, since it exposes a staging area? Where will they end up being?
So they'll be placed in areas that are viable and most appropriate for each household. So the individual or the household is the applicant, and their wishes will be primary in determining where. As far as when, of course, FEMA, as John mentioned, is working as hard as they can. We're just standing up that staging area. There will be a team of 20 individuals there working that to receive units. And sometimes they'll be purchased and hauled directly to sites, both ideally for owners. If their private property has room for a unit that could be appropriate, that would be a priority. And then if there are any what we call direct lease or multifamily lease and repair sites, these are facilities that could be built out to have actually create residential spaces for people.
So would that be like in a month they could move in, or what's the time frame there?
Yeah, I don't have a time frame exactly right now.
When would you
Moving as
like
quickly as
to be able
possible.
to, once they get here, how soon?
I certainly think everyone would love to see someone in before Thanksgiving, but I don't have a hard date on that. Yes, ma'am.
We said 162 were ordered. Is that statewide or just for Jackson County?
So those are for Jackson County, and again, there's a process of, first of all, determining the need, and from there, where best they could be located and the type of units that'll be appropriate. So the availability of units is not in any way a limiting factor for FEMA right now.
And so we can expect to see those trailers coming in and then going out to wherever it is they'll be mobilized to?
So as of tomorrow, the staging area will be open to receive units, and I don't have an exact date on the arrival of the first ones.
How long does somebody stay in one of those trailers? Is there a time frame that they're given? Or
Sure. So the FEMA Housing Assistance Program, both financially, if someone has a place that they can rent and they have rental assistance, or the direct housing is for a period of 18 months from the date of the declaration, which was September 15th.
And then after they're done, you come collect them wherever they are, I suppose, right?
That's correct.
John, I have a question about United Way. You mentioned, and I realize you're not with United Way, but you mentioned the funding that was made available, $2,500 possibly a maximum, if I got that correct. But what is that designated for? Who would qualify?
So, and the details of that, you'd have to go to United Way, but what I will say is the basic program is for survivors. So for those who have suffered damage in this fire, and you have to demonstrate that you did suffer damage, you had a loss, you have to demonstrate that to United Way. And it appears that it's a fairly open application, that you can demonstrate need in a variety of ways, whether it's housing or to replace a vehicle or whatever. There's a variety of needs, but you do have to demonstrate loss. And the application process has things that you check and have to state to demonstrate that. One other thing I would add, per the question that Toby was asked about, where the trailer is going to be placed. As I noted, to start off with, we're getting some RVs, and those are going to go in some of the county parks. All those other options that we added, that we noted, are also options, and those are going to be sorted out as this time goes through. And as Toby noted, they might go on a piece of private property where someone lost a structure and there's room for a trailer. Those can also go in a cleaned up RV park that we went in, or a mobile home park that we cleaned up, and we could put those facilities at those first. So there's a variety of ways that we're going to try to place those things. Right now, we don't have a big list of them as far as the exact locations, but there's a lot of opportunities to place those in different locations.
Just for our planning purposes, for B-roll, will they be out there tomorrow, would you suppose, where we can get some footage of the trailers?
Check with the news desk to see what kind of availability there might be.
Okay. Are they out in the parking lot?
Yeah, so
it's a big parking lot. So.
Yeah, so the Expo was contracted a couple different areas. They contracted the gravel parking lots up by the RV park first, but they've also contracted property behind, or in the process of contracting property off of Gebhardt Road, which is a big lot. But the location they'll be starting to show up first is there off of Penninger Road on the gravel parking lots. Other questions?
Going back to what you mentioned about the Red Cross emergency housing, that continues through December 31, what is going to happen to those people afterwards?
So we have asked the state of Oregon that question, and what the state of Oregon is telling us that there will be an alternative. I don't know what that alternative looks like yet, but they have indicated that the additional housing will be provided in one way, and so we are anxious to hear what that is ourselves, but I don't have the answer to that yet.
Will there be any further Greenway volunteer opportunities, or is that process mostly over?
The needs on the Greenway right now are so high, I can guarantee you, if people want to volunteer on the Greenway, there's going to be plenty of more opportunities to volunteer on the Greenway. And to do that, simply contact the Jackson County Parks Office and ask for Brooke. And Brooke is the one coordinating all this work on behalf of the Greenway efforts. And so if people want to participate, please call Brooke and she'll set you up. Anything else? Okay, thank you everybody for your time.